would like to formally welcome you to Lead Your Life from behind the scenes introvert to impactful, confident leader. So I'd like for us to dive in here and ask you a few questions. So can you relate to this? And let me know, pop a 1 in the chat if you identify as being a driven professional with a vision for having a real impact on the world. So you're not here to play small, you definitely want to do some big things. All right, so Sharon, yes. And even if it takes a little while to respond, feel free, even if I move on, keep your responses coming. I love to read these. Okay, or, and you can actually be both, by the way, you are an action taker, putting in the time and effort every single day to build a career or maybe even a business that you are truly passionate about, that really lights you up. Okay, yeah, so Anne is into both. Okay, Mel asks, will you get the slides? You will have a limited time replay. Okay, awesome. So let's say you have an ambition, you have that drive, but at the same time, there's some other things going on. So give me an A if you have ever worried what other people think about you. So let's say anytime that you're about to send an email, speak up about something that you care about, get something done, you pause and ask yourself, wait, did I do it right? Did they like me? Was I too much of this, too little of that? So give me an A if that has ever been you. Okay, I'm seeing some A's here. Yeah, Bree, Andreas, Diane. Or give me a B if you say yes to things. Even when you're a little bit overloaded already, you're pretty much doing too much, but you say yes so that you can prove that you're good enough. So if you've ever been guilty of that, I know I have, right? Being that yes person. Okay, Naomi says yes. Bree says yes. Okay, or give me a C if you have ever not made time for yourself. So let's say that other things have taken priority over things like going to the gym, like taking vacation, like doing some of your favorite hobbies. Yeah, so Lena has been there before. Farad, Liz. Yeah. Huber says, I make time for myself now, but sometimes it's hard. Yeah, and now D. Have you ever turned down and missed out on big opportunities because you think, I'm just not ready, right? All right, Carla's like D for sure. Yeah, Sharon totally resonates with that. Lena, Michael, Tess, Naomi, Anne, Karina. Okay, Farad giving me a bunch of that. Yeah, definitely resonates. Liz says occasionally it takes a bit of effort. Say yes these days. Yeah, so you're not alone, right? You can tell from the chat, you can tell from me even raising my own hands, like, yes, I have felt these things. You have experienced maybe one or multiple of these experiences. And the reason why I've had these experiences is because there are core beliefs that exist within you that just aren't serving you right now. They have well intentions. Our subconscious mind is trying to help us, but sometimes ends up self-sabotaging us. So we're going to go into that a little bit later, but now I would like to know if you want these things. So put a 1 in the chat if you would like to sleep soundly each night knowing that you did your best that day. All right, Lena says yes, and allow yourself to really feel the experience of what it would be like if you're not already experiencing this right now. You're like, oh yeah, that would be nice. Because the first step of having something become your reality is really allowing yourself to envision what your reality is. All right, I see a lot of people are like, yes, I'm ready for that. And Andrea's free, or give me a B, excuse me, we're doing numbers now, a 2, if you'd like to wake up feeling energized and excited for the day, where you pretty much pop out of bed every day because you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing things that I really enjoy, and you have this level of excitement. All right, Kate says yes, Bree, Farad, Sam says it would be a dream. All right, Diana says definitely, or, okay, how about a 3? Effortlessly set boundaries and ask for the things that you want and that you need. Okay, so go ahead and give me a 3. Yes, Naomi says yes. Carla says yes. Diane says yes. Lena says yes. Huber says yes. Yeah, and Huber also says it's kind of difficult right now. Yeah, so Farad, Diana, Carlo, Anne, and we're going to keep the good vibes going. So how about speaking up in meetings? So this is number 4 now. Give me a 4 if you are so excited about the possibility and embodying speaking up in meetings and sharing the things that you'd like to share because you know without a shadow of doubt that you deserve to be heard. Okay, and Huber brings up a great point about listening as well as being heard. It is a balance. Yeah, so I mean, let's see. Farad says yes. Diana, Carlo, Lena. Yes, and I'll even add to get into that leadership role, being heard in the first place is what allows that upward progression. It's a fallacy that, oh, people will notice if I'm just quiet behind the scenes. Someone's going to scope me out and want to promote me. You need to advocate for yourself sometimes and be visible. Okay, what about 5? Confidently walk into any room, anywhere, anytime, with anyone without second guessing yourself. So that can be a virtual room like this room, that can be an in-person room, just knowing that, oh yeah, this is where I am and I am meant to be here. All right, Farad says yes to 5, 3, and let's see, Larud says, I used to be. Well, yeah, so some of us I know have gone through a lot recently, collectively, and sometimes it's about being attuned to, what do I want to bring back? What do I want to improve upon even more than before? Let's say that, maybe a couple of years ago, you had no problem confidently walking into any room and you're a little rusty now, understandably so. What would it be like to embody that even more now? Okay, now give me a 6. Think about it. Going to the gym regularly, taking those really fun vacations to places that have been on your bucket list, and doing things daily that bring you joy. All right, seeing some 6s here. Kyla, Kara, Bree, Yarko, S. Okay, Liz. All right, so now that we are in the mindset of like, oh yeah, these are things that we want. These are things that we can have, because the first step is even identifying what you want. I'm going to introduce myself. So I know that many of you are new to my message and my tribe here. So hello, my name is Stephanie, and I'm on a mission to help entrepreneurial introverts connect with their confidence to rise into those leadership roles and make the impact that they are here to make. So this really ties in with earlier, we were talking about having that level of ambition, claiming that, and not settling for maybe what other people think is possible for you, or even what you currently think is possible for yourself. We're ready to expand today. And yeah, a little more about me. I'm a transformational leadership and life coach. I am the author of a book called Confident Introvert, on the board of directors of Cytogal. And yeah, I'm well-versed, I'm trained in subconscious work. So I'll be sharing some of that knowledge with you today. And I've also instructed thousands of people over the years, spoken at many universities. So I'm really excited to share more with you, but also this next slide, I'm going to share something that you actually won't find on LinkedIn, because all this stuff right here, you can absolutely find on LinkedIn, but you're not going to find this here. Okay, everybody. All right, so hey, there is little Stephanie. That's when I was, oh my goodness, picture day, probably 8 years old. And growing up, I felt this lingering sense of feeling kind of disconnected. And like, I wonder, and thank you, Diana, this is adorable. But so I wonder, and let me know if you resonate with any of this, right? Because a part of the reason why I share a little bit more of the before and not just the after, where I am right now, is because sometimes there are more commonalities than you think with the people, let's say, that you are, that you're learning from. So I also, when I was around this age, felt ashamed of different labels that were put on me. And that actually transitioned into my career, where when I got my very first job as an admin, I held the belief of, well, be so good they can't ignore you. And I was really good, but I'm like, wait, they're still kind of ignoring me. So what's going on? And then I wondered, have you ever had this thought, will I forever be an admin or a coordinator? And there's nothing wrong with these roles, but I knew that I wanted more. But I wasn't sure if I was going to get it in a 9 to 5. And, my career has really been a journey of connecting with and finding my unique voice in meetings for sure. And also in roll call at events. And I'll just share, goodness, I remember, let me know if you've ever been in this sort of experience. Maybe it was in school, maybe it was at an event, but I was at a networking event where people were going around and you had to stand up and say your name and where you worked and maybe your title. And I remember being at this event and I was fresh out of college and it was one of my first networking events. And I found myself hoping that the power would go out before it was my turn. I was profusely drinking water, clearing my throat, but trying to do it really quietly, just to seem confident because I wasn't yet totally embodying it. And, has anyone ever had that sense of buildup? And then maybe you say your name and you croak it out, and then your palms are really sweaty and you're like, oh, I wish that was just a better experience. Yeah, Lena relates to that and says yes. And, a big part of my journey as well has been knowing and owning my truth as an adult and not waiting and hoping that other people would notice the gifts that I have, but proactively developing them, getting mentorship to do so, and actively putting myself out there and building a sense of confidence that then I get to share with other people. So now we're going to move on here. So when it comes to imposter syndrome, have you heard of this term? It's kind of a buzzword in the tech scene for sure, where it's this idea that, like maybe I don't deserve to be in this room. Maybe maybe they'll find me out. And all these people that you see here, executives like Sheryl Sandberg, celebrities like Oprah, entrepreneurs like Miss Blakely, all of these people have gone on the record as saying, yes, I have felt imposter syndrome, and not just when they were starting out, but modern day. And really, it comes down to this constant measuring of ourselves against these standards that are not, we didn't make them up. They're externally defined standards that don't actually take into account who we are and what our unique contribution is. And then we wonder why we feel so stuck and full of shame. So we'll talk a little bit more about the secret shame piece later. But in essence, we are on a subconscious level taught to stay away from anything that is new and different, even if it could be a great opportunity, because it's unfamiliar and it could potentially be unsafe. So that's one of the reasons why, if you have ever thought about taking a risk, or let's say you've been offered this amazing job opportunity that excites you but also scares you, you decide, what, I'm not ready yet, I'm not going to take it. That is the work of your subconscious mind trying to keep you safe. And there are also some beliefs that are in our conscious awareness that get in the way of feeling a sense of unshakable confidence. So we're going to dive into 3 confidence myths right now. So, okay, I'm excited to share with you because you've definitely heard these before. So the first one, let me know in the comments, say yes, if you've ever heard, if you want to feel confident, you should fake it till you make it. Yeah, okay, I'm seeing some yeses. Bree, Carla, Yarko, Kyla, Diana. Yes, okay, so it's one of those things, if you want to feel confident, you should fake it till you make it. We hear this a lot. So we begin to think, oh, I know, I just have to pretend, and then it will become real. When really, I'm going to throw a truth bomb out here right now. So power poses, I love a good power suit, okay? Power poses like Amy Cuddy's, wearing power suits And telling ourselves affirmations, those can be great. They can get us to a certain level, but I'm just gonna call BS. They are actually total BS without this. So without a sense of calm below the surface of confidence. So we'll go into this a little bit more later, but essentially, in order to really embody a sense of confidence that is true, that is real, that is unfaltering, there needs to be the alleviation of, in this case, social anxiety, right? So one of the things that can help build confidence to, let's say, walk into that room or even create a project that you've been procrastinating on and not engaging in because, let's say, there's this block. I'd like to share with you something that really helped out one of my clients who was embarking upon this massive creative project, a part of her legacy and her life's work. And, when we first started working together, she said, I've been wanting to do this for so long, but whenever I sit down to begin the project, I go blank. I just can't do it. So let me know in the comments, can you relate to that? Have you ever had something that you wanted to do, something that you wanted to bring to life creatively, whether it be for work or for your personal growth, and there's something in the way. Maybe you don't know what it is. Yeah, so Yarko says yes, Sam says yes with all the S's, and Carla's like, yeah, all the time. So I'm going to share a tool that helped her and that can help you too. So it's called the Daily 3-2-1. And what this is a power hour that you can use. You can do this daily, or let's say if you are experiencing a creative block, you can begin to implement this and it will really open up this element of inspiration for you. So what you'll start out this power daily 3-2-1 hour with is 30 minutes of reading, and it can be anything. And actually, let me know in the comments what you're reading right now. This is a great opportunity to get some book recommendations going. So 30 minutes of reading, 20 minutes of journaling, and 10 minutes of meditation. And when my client, her name's Kelly, when she started to implement this, she ended up removing that block. And she was actually able to begin her project, not just begin it, but actually finish it. So what you'd like to do, or what I'd like you to do here, is spend 30 minutes reading. It can be anything that you think is fun or interesting. Or if you're currently taking a class, you can use this 30 minutes to read something that is already assigned. But then the 20 minutes of journaling, this is something that I prefer to let you really be free with. So total free writing, right? Where you set a timer for 20 minutes and pen to paper, whatever comes out, you just let it come out, stream of consciousness, and then 10 minutes of meditation. So let me know in the comments, are you a meditator? Have you ever meditated? What is your experience like with that? Yeah, okay, so basically, let's see, Tess says not a consistent meditator. Yes, okay, Julian. So the main idea of this daily 3-2-1 is a combination of things. So to break it down, this 30 minutes of reading is input. It's where you are getting some sort of inspiration from the text that you're reading. And then 20 minutes of journaling is your output. And where anything that is lingering within your mind or within your emotions, you're able to engage in something that I like to call narrative therapy. Let's say if you have a story on loop in your mind that is not feeling great. Let's say you're ruminating about something that happened, maybe it happened that day, maybe it happened years ago, but it feels unprocessed. This is an opportunity to write out what happened. And it may feel redundant if you're already thinking about it all the time, but what it can do is allow you to create a healthy distance from an episode that keeps on replaying, and maybe along with that episode come feelings of shame, or they can pretty much contribute to this block that you're experiencing. And then the 10 minutes of meditation is your integration of the input and the output. So there are many different ways to meditate, and what I like to recommend is called a mindfulness meditation. So what I'd like you to do here is be seated cross-legged. You can sit in a chair with both feet planted firmly on the ground and breathing in through the nose for 4 counts and holding for 4 counts and breathing out. Let's try one breath together. So you can get in a comfortable seat, and we're going to take such a deep breath in through our nose for 4 counts, filling up your lungs and belly. And then pause that breath for another 4 counts. And then exhale through the mouth for 4. And believe me, if you do that for 10 minutes, you will feel a total shift in the way that you are feeling and the way that you're showing up. And even if you just do that 3 times, I also recommend that before going to an event, for example. That's a great thing to do. All right. And yes, Julian, you can decide to get up an hour early and do this first thing in the morning. You can also choose to do it last thing at night. However, first thing in the morning will benefit you more if this is in relationship to finally going about that project that you've been wanting to do. Okay, now myth number 2. Have you ever heard or have you ever believed that confidence comes from success? Right? Okay, so let me know in the chat, have you ever heard this and been like, oh yeah, that sounds about right? That you just become successful and then you get to feel confident. So yeah, Tatiana is like, of course, and says, yes, absolutely. And then Liam says, since childhood, it's so ingrained, isn't it? When really, the truth is, we talked about this a little bit earlier, imposter syndrome does not discriminate. Maya Angelou, Oprah, Beyonce, they have all experienced it. So it's not a thing that we can plan to ever escape, right? No matter our level of success, because objectively, those are pretty successful people, okay? But there's also a story that we tell ourselves, the story that more is better, where we become what I call a human doing instead of a human being. And what actually works and helps alleviate being on this hamster wheel that we saw in the previous slide is, instead of piling up your to-do list with so many things back to back to back to back, leading yourself to burnout, what you can do instead may seem counterintuitive, but I'm going to ask you to do less right now. And, you know, there's a story here that I'd like to share. I was presenting a webinar, or not a webinar, I was presenting an actual workshop called Networking for Introverts a few years ago. And let's see, after the workshop, there was Q&A, and someone came up after the Q&A and said, hey, I have a question. And I was like, great, you know, what's your question? And then he said, well, so I'm curious about why you gave a presentation on introversion when you are so obviously an extrovert. And I paused for a moment. I mean, imagine getting asked that question. And then I decided to ask a question response instead of giving an answer right away. I asked, okay, well, what do you think I was doing before this event? And he said, well, you were probably out at dinner with friends. And I said, well, not exactly. Actually, before this event, I was actually reading in the lobby for about an hour. I got here early and yeah, found a spot, got comfortable, and then entered this room. And then I asked, okay, what do you think I'll be doing after this event? And he said, well, I mean, maybe you'll be going to an after party. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about the after party. But yeah, no, I won't be going to the after party. What I'll actually be doing is going home and reading, journaling, and meditating before bed. This is before I coined the daily 3-2-1. And so what this illustrates is doing less, but giving more. So a solitude sandwich is composed of 2 periods of solitude where you are really, in your own energy, doing something that you enjoy. It can also be relatively active. You can go on a walk. And then in the middle, let's say your peanut butter or whatever sandwich filling you like, that is your activity where you get to be fully present, right? So essentially, you know, when we think about confidence coming from pure success and just like output, 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 being able to take some deep breaths and have a solid soup sandwich, right, enables us to have more energy and reach those next levels that we'd like to reach. And now, myth number 3, confidence is something that you are born with. You either got it or you don't, right? So it's like, if you have it, hallelujah, congratulations. If you don't, then, oh, it's too bad. That's too bad. Okay, so let me know, have you ever heard this? Have you ever believed this? Ever? Okay, so the truth of the matter is, is there's a little thing called neuroplasticity. And what this is the idea and the concept that new neural pathways can be created in our brain at any time, at any age, that enable us to act differently, to believe differently, to show up differently. And now I'm going to share with you a strategy that one of my clients used that actually helped with this exact scenario, right? So believing that confidence is something that you're born with, that's kind of like, you know, being born into a certain family where you're a peasant or where you're royalty and there's no way out. It's different. This is different. You get to build confidence like a muscle thanks to neuroplasticity. And so one of my former clients, essentially, you know, she was experiencing a block. She wanted to rise up either within her company or another company, and she knew she had a lot to offer logically, but something was holding her back in the interview process, and she just wasn't sure what was going on. And essentially, I asked her, okay, when you first wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, I'd like you to be aware of your self-talk. So she told me, you know, I realized once I started really pausing and looking in the mirror every morning, I realized something that I've been saying to myself for a really long time. And I asked, okay, so yeah, what have you been saying? And she said, I've been saying, ew. So imagine that, you know, the first thing, your first impression of yourself every morning when you wake up is something like ew. And she wasn't even aware of this. So what we did was a technique called the coin bridge that starts with your head statement, which is, let's say it's ew. And then you have your tail statement, which is something that's the opposite, that you'd much rather think about yourself. So, you know, let me know in the comments, what would your head, let's see, your tail statement be if your heads of a coin, right, is ew. So maybe it would be something like, I am amazing. I have so much to offer. And, you know, we talked about affirmations earlier and how those are BS. And one of the ways that we can actually begin to lessen the gap between this statement that is not serving us and the statement that we would much prefer to believe is by building a bridge, a coin bridge. So imagine a teeny tiny bridge on a coin, taking you from your heads to your tails, and that bridge is a neutral statement. So let's say if we have ew and we have I'm amazing, maybe the bridge statement, let me know what you are thinking of right now in terms of what this bridge statement could be. Let's say that it's I am worthy. I am a worthy human being. And it's like, worthy of what? It doesn't matter. You're worthy. So, right, that could be someone's bridge statement. That was Austin's bridge statement. And essentially, over time, what ends up happening is the bridge statement, when you catch yourself thinking, ew, then you're immediately, that's your trigger to be able to say, okay, go into the bridge statement that is, and to say, okay, actually, I am worthy. And then over time, what she found was she actually believed the bridge statement. And then guess what? Your heads and your tails, it's I am worthy to I'm amazing. And then you have a much tinier bridge, getting to fully believe what deep down you wish you could believe, you wish could be real for you, becomes more accessible. And over the course of a few weeks, something really big happened for her. So she was working as an associate at a company, and she thought, oh, it's like good enough, right? Like, has anyone ever been in a job where like, this is good enough? And within a few weeks, she actually ended up earning a vice president role at her dream company in her dream industry. So this is just one example of how this coin bridge can really serve you. Now we're going to dive into where the heck confidence comes from. Like, where does it come from? The people that have it and they cultivate it. What? Tell me more. Okay, so we talked about this a little earlier, but we'll dive in further now. The subconscious mind. So all of us at one point or another in one aspect or quite a few aspects of our lives have experienced this conflict that consciously the adult version of you knows, like objectively you rock, okay? Objectively, you're pretty cool. You have stuff going on, you have a lot of things going for you, right? But subconsciously, there's this little kid version of you that thinks that you're not good enough, that hasn't really, grown up in terms of all the adult things that you've accomplished or that you're working towards. So see where this conflict is? Where internally there are these subconscious thoughts that are like, yeah, no, we're not ready. We can't do that. So this is the reason why you do things like second guess yourself. And let me know in the comments which one of these really hits home the most in terms of things that you know you've done that aren't really serving your highest good, right? So second guessing yourself, questioning your abilities, comparing yourself to others, feeling like a total imposter, and overworking just to prove yourself to everyone. Yeah, Carla says questioning my abilities. Julie says comparing myself to others. Yeah, and it's one of those situations we'll talk about when this becomes more of an issue a little bit later. So, okay. So basically, there's something called your developmental years. And your developmental years are in between the ages of 0 and 7. And that's where you are like a subconscious sponge in everything in your environment. You are perceiving, you are soaking up, and that becomes the basis of how you operate as an adult. So any beliefs around money, any beliefs around certain relationship dynamics, any beliefs around what is possible for you, maybe they're not even your ultimate truth. They could be things that you picked up at a very young age, to the point where you just think it's true, but it's not. It's something that has given you a sense of stability growing up. But how many of us have ever outgrown versions of perceived reality of what was possible for us? I know I have. And if you're here, then I know you've been there too. You're probably there right now. You're like, wait, I'm ready for that next level, but what the heck? Like, what's in the way here? Okay, so to fix this issue of having that gap, right, that we want to fill, where you have a lot that you can accomplish, perhaps you have a lot that you already have accomplished, but you're feeling like, okay, like, I don't know if I can do more. I don't even know if what I've done is good enough, is doing some spring cleaning. No matter the season, it could be winter cleaning, summer cleaning, I don't care. It's time to do some cleaning of your subconscious mind, right? And imagining that your subconscious mind has just been accumulating and piling up these beliefs, and you didn't even know it. So while you do that cleaning, at the same time, you're creating new thoughts and visions and showing yourself that you can do it through taking pretty powerful and aligned actions. Okay, so this is where the conscious confidence system comes in. So there are 4 steps here that I take my clients through that I'm going to share with you. Super excited to dive into these. So if you want to take notes, you are more than welcome to. So the 4 steps are identify, uncover, replace, and amplify. All right, so step 1 is you're gonna discover what it is that you truly want, as well as the conscious limiting beliefs to becoming a confident leader, as well as thoughts and behaviors that are keeping you from getting it, right? So this identify part, you can begin to do this right now. You can begin to write down, top of your mind, this is conscious, this first step. What do you really want? And oftentimes that can be the first thing that comes to mind, but then we tell us, oh no, that's not it. So what you want, and let's see, and conscious beliefs that are kind of getting in the way there, right? So I'd love for you to take some time even after this to journal on this more. So maybe you just want to write down or take a screenshot of this slide before we move on to the second step, which is uncover. So this is where we go below the surface and access the subconscious mind to essentially dig up those old mental programs that are keeping those unhealthy patterns alive that we talked about earlier. And these unhealthy patterns are in essence keeping you invisible. And some people might even say, oh, but it's, you know what, maybe it's okay if I'm invisible. But guess what? If you are here to make an impact beyond yourself, which you and I both know you totally are, then being invisible is not an option. It doesn't matter how introverted you are. It doesn't matter how maybe in the past you put yourself out there and it didn't go over well. No, this is about something so much bigger than you. So this uncover phase, this uncover process is crucial. All right, so step 3, this is where you switch out the old programs with those powerful new constructive and pretty confident beliefs and behaviors at the conscious and the subconscious levels. So this can occur through mentorship and coaching and also transformational recordings. All right, so step 4 is to amplify. This is the fun part, right? This is where all of that digging's been done, the little switches have happened, and you're ready to fully step in to that new reality and redesign what your future looks like and feels like with a plan of action. So this isn't just kind of like, oh, I'll just see what happens. I'll play it by ear. It's like, no, you have this newfound sense of such clarity and confidence that really empowers you to connect with people, that really empowers you to be someone who's really influential and someone who even assists others do the thing that maybe you've always wanted to do once you do that thing. All right, so there's something that I'd like to share, a few different stories to help really bring this home, because sometimes we wonder, wait, is that really possible for me? Or I've had this goal for a while. Is that something that I can do? And sometimes our logical mind is kind of like chatter, 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 and it can be a little overwhelming. So we're going to take a look at some people that I like to call expanders. So these are people that have made quantum leaps in their lives in a relatively short span. So first, I'd like to introduce you to Austin. So Austin was considering a total career change and makeover, but her big problem was that she was really anxious to use her voice in meetings, to the point where, and let me know, can you relate to this? Have you ever been in a meeting and you have this idea and you want to say it, but then you think, I don't know if that question it's not a good question, or, I should just kind of, just not say that because it could come off and paint me in a light that I don't want to be painted in. And then someone asks your question and people praise them. Oh, that's such a great question. Oh my gosh, thank you. Or someone says the thing that you were thinking of saying, and then and then there's a lot of praise, and you're thinking, oh wait, I guess that could have been me, but I was too busy weighing the pros and cons, doing a SWOT analysis of this comment. So she was in that situation, and it got to a point where we started working together, and she said, I'm just done with this. I want to stop doing this. I want to be able to share more freely and be a leader. And she now confidently and regularly shares in work meetings. And she's not even at the same table. We talked about her a little earlier, but she went from associate at a good enough company to vice president at her dream company with a multiple 5-figure raise. So this stuff can actually translate into tangible dollars, okay? But it's about the holistic essence of it all, right? It's not having to choose between your head and your heart, not having to choose between happiness and money, being able to actually have all of it. All right, now introducing Sarah. Okay, so Sarah came to me and was brand new to a company and nervous about how to not get pigeonholed and actively lead. Have you ever had this experience? Maybe you're new at a company and you think, I have so many broad interests. I don't want this company to only think I can do this one thing, even though maybe I do it well, but I want to do more, right? And at that point, had also never dated or had a girlfriend, but wanted one. And let's fast forward through working together, actually realized that they identified as female and actually had for a while. So they were born with a male name, a totally different identity, all the while secretly wishing that they were a different gender identity. So it's like, it's not so much that they wanted to have the girlfriend as much as they wanted to be the girlfriend. So in order to rise into your highest leadership potential, doing that deeper work and identifying sometimes the things that have caused a sense of shame that have been your truth all along, and claiming those things. And what happened as a result of Sarah really claiming this disowned aspect of herself was that she strengthened relationships at work, strengthened relationships within her family, strengthened her friendships by coming out. When she actually thought they might crumble, they became stronger. And this also was a really great opportunity for her to step up to be a total leader within a club at work, and to really help facilitate different meetings of this club and become well known in her field within her company. And none of that would have been as possible if she wasn't firmly rooted in her truth. Okay, now let's say hi to Kelly. Okay, so does anyone here want to write a book someday? So that was definitely Kelly. That was her creative project, but she was lacking confidence and not knowing where to begin. What is the first step, right? Okay, the first step is having the desire, but then what's the second step? And she also thought that she'd worked through all of some not so great things that happened in childhood, right? So she thought, I'm done with that, but I just want to, do my creative project. So now she has actually completed her first memoir, and that was another lifelong secret dream that she now not only feels worthy of, but accomplished. She's also mended relationships and moved on from ones that didn't work without regret. She was able to have this sense of crystal clarity through her creative work and everything that came with it. And something that she'd always wanted to do, but again, she wasn't sure if she could do it. She's now on a podcast tour. She's now a thought leader speaking about her book on virtual podcast stages, being asked about her opinion on different things, establishing herself with every interview as more and more of a leader in her space, because she created this project and because she has, in her words, 11 out of 10 confidence after doing this deep work. Okay, so congratulations, you made it to the very end of this presentation, and we do have time for Q&A here. So let's see, if you haven't already submitted a question, I'd like to encourage you to use the Q&A function within the chat, and I'll get through as many of those as I can. But before we dive into those, I'd like to formally invite you to connect, because there's more where this came from. You can find me on Instagram. Go ahead if you'd like to go to Instagram right now. I know you have your phones, and you can type in the Stephanie Michelle. That is my handle, and I post a lot of personal and professional development content that really expands upon and goes into more depth of what we've gone over today. And I would also like to give you a special invitation for being a part of this journey, right? So we started out as strangers, being like, hey, like, who is this Stephanie person? And now, you know, I've seen so many of your comments, and I feel like let's talk further. I'd love to get to know you on a one-on-one level even more. So if you have a sense of curiosity about becoming the most confident version of yourself, about becoming the most influential, leadership-driven version of yourself, then what I'd like you to do is scan the QR code, or you can go to thestephaniemichelle.com/coaching, and you can actually set up a free call with me. And what we're going to do on that call is really, we're going to be able to identify what your current blocks are. So if you're sitting here thinking, okay, great, like I know, like I'm feeling pumped up, but I don't really know exactly what the next step is, I don't really know exactly what I want to do for sure, then that's okay. That's totally okay. We'll be able to dive into that on the call, because one of my superpowers is being able to see with crystal clarity what people's blind spots are. So let's go ahead and take a moment to set up that call. I have a few times on the calendar that I have dedicated to everyone watching this webinar for this week. thestephaniemichelle.com/coaching is where you can go ahead and schedule that chat.